In this tutorial, we're going to show you how you can speed up your WordPress site very easily and without touching a great deal of code. First thing you need to do when looking to make your website faster or less slow, whichever way you choose to look at it, is to find out what you can make faster or make less slow. Now, one of the tools you can use to identify what can be improved is the Pingdom website speed test. And this is free. It's at tools.pingdom.com. And all you do is punch in your domain name and then hit test. It'll load up your website and show you how long each different resource takes to load, and then give you a grading out of 100. And then you can look at what it finds to be quite good and not good enough, such as browser caching in this instance. And these can serve as a great guide of what you can look at to speed up your website. There's also Google Page Speed, which you could find. There'll be a link in the description area below, and it just runs tests on your website to show what you should change really, and what you can consider fixing. In some instances, it's really up to you to go and find out how to do these, and naturally, a quick Google search will explain that to you. But what we're going to first start off with is compression. Now, you've probably used a zip file before. There's no doubt about that, and that's a form of compression whereby the files are compressed so the actual file that you would send to someone else would be smaller, and then it's extracted to the full size by the recipient. And it works in much the same way when it comes to serving web content as well. In this particular instance, we're going to use something called gzip. Now, it's available in both Apache and Nginx web servers, though at the moment we're just going to look at Apache because that is certainly the more common. And all you need to do is punch in this code into your htaccess file. The htaccess file is basically an instruction set for the Apache web server, one that you would usually have access to even on cheaper hosting plans available, such as shared hosting, which are usually quite restricted. And if we just sort of have a look here at what it's doing, as long as the deflate module is enabled and installed and ready to go, it will deflate any HTML, CSS, JavaScript, plain text, XML, or images. So what's actually happening is your web server will compress that content, and then it will send it, and the browser will then go and decompress the content and load the page in the browser. Now, all modern browsers support this. Some older browsers do not, but that's okay. Like, it will not be a problem in those instances, but it's just something to be aware of anyway. So you just save those changes and they take effect usually immediately. It depends on your host though, but for the most part it should be immediate effect. Now, that's really probably the biggest performance gain out of anything that we're going to do today. So if you do anything out of this video, make sure it's instituting gzip. And the second thing we're going to look at is browser caching. Now, browser caching is just a way of saying to the browser that these resources are only ever updated so often, so keep them stored locally, so that when a person visits your website, they don't have to load, say, your CSS file or certain images over and over and over again. Now, once again, this is made with a very easy modification to your htaccess file. Now, it might look a little bit crazy at first, but it reads almost like English, you know. So we've got the expires, we've got your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then a few different image formats with the time after that, obviously saying how long that it should remain valid for. And at the point in time when those are no longer valid, or that the visitor hasn't visited your website in that period of time, it will actually reload those resources. But for the most part, it will store them for a while or for however long you choose to dictate that to be, and it will make for a much smoother, faster browsing experience. And the next thing we're going to look at is not usually that great of a performance gain, but it may be depending on the kind of website you run. And that's to simply disable hot linking or direct linking of of your images. And so a good example would be maybe you have a particular photo on your website, someone wants to put that on their website, and they go and do that, but they, instead of downloading and then uploading the photo to their website, they just leave it on yours. So you can see here basically what it's doing is for JPEGs, PNGs, and GIF files. It's making sure that you can only have people coming in from these places here. So you would change your site to, say, wpkb.com. So you obviously still want Google to have access to your images, as well as FeedBurner, and you can just continue to add line after line here for any certain syndication services or websites you would like to allow to continue to link your images in that way. So the next thing we're going to look at is minification. Now, this is basically a word to say strip out everything unnecessary out of any particular file. So we're just going to jump onto this CSS minifier, and in here I've just pasted the CSS file for one of the default WordPress themes, and just to show you what it will look like. And you can see there's nice spacing, everything's formatted very nicely, and if you just click minify, you can see that what that output then becomes. It's basically all of the spaces and any returns have just simply been removed, and that just makes for a smaller file that needs to be, that consumes less bandwidth when it's loaded. The gains from minifying CSS and JavaScript are generally pretty minimal, but it can be worthwhile. Now, of course, this is just a manual way of doing it, and you're welcome to do it this way if you'd like, but certainly the wiser way to do it with WordPress is through a plugin. One such plugin is Better WordPress Minify. It can actually minify all of these files for you without you needing to give any consideration to it. And you can just install that in WordPress as you would generally install any other plugin, just through the plugin installation interface. And the last thing I'd like to talk about in terms of making sure you've got a pretty fast site is theme choice. Theme choice is important when it comes to the speed of your website, because there are a lot of people out there developing themes, and there are a set of guidelines that should ideally be followed but aren't necessarily always followed. And in those instances, you can sometimes get a poorly coded theme, and that can lead to a slow website. Now, it's reasonably unlikely that this will be an issue that affects you, but this is something to be aware of as well. So when you're buying themes or finding new ones, any on the WordPress theme repository are generally really good to go because they are checked by the WordPress theme check team. Then there are commercial marketplaces such as ThemeForest, Mojo Themes, the Mojo Marketplace, Woo Themes. These are also great places to get themes from because they're also checked by a review team before they are able to go on sale. So that's where we'll stop our little session on how you can make your website faster. So just to quickly recap, we've covered using gzip compression to net the biggest gain in speed increase there. By compressing resources so the browser then handles that rather than it being a sheer bandwidth job, setting browser cache times, disabling direct hot linking or direct leeching of your images, CSS and JavaScript minification, and theme choice. So just follow this video through, try implementing a few of these, and run page speed insights on your page just to make sure it is taking effect and you're seeing positive gains from that. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below.